is an example that will illustrate it. I looked briefly one night at the school department budget on the website, and I read the report that you handed in, and there's a reference to, well, we're losing kids to the CTE programs. I could find only one kid in that CTE program in the budget that was going to a different school. Do we have a slew of other kids that have left our school to go into a CTE program somewhere else? How many do we have? Because I can only find one. And I think I asked you before the meeting started, and I think you said, yeah, it's just a handful, maybe one. So I don't know where you're getting that information from, but that's not accurate. The other thing is, when I looked at the projected enrollments in some of those out-of-district placements, charter schools, Beacon Charter School, those types of schools, they were projecting an increase to 40 from a current enrollment of a much smaller number. And I looked on the RIDE website, because that's what we used to do, and it shows what they project will be going to that school in the coming year. And when you compare them to what our district is recommending, our district is suggesting that we're going to have more kids going to that school than the RIDE projected number is. So we're budgeting for kids that even RIDE doesn't think are going to go there. And RIDE, believe me when I say this, is very liberal when they decide how many kids are going to go. They're always on the high side. So we've got line items in that budget that do have a little padding to them. So I don't have a lot of sympathy for the school department to have to reconcile, because I think they'll be able to find it in several categories. I also would like to know if the budget that you handed out tonight has a date on it of the budget that I looked at online today at the school department had expenditures year-to-date as of 12/31/2018. And again, did you get an updated version of that budget that showed current expenditures as of May 1st? So you could kind of see, if they spent $80,000 on oil in the first 9 months and they're looking to budget, $200,000 of oil in the 12-month period, and there's only 3 months left, they're not going to need that $200. So I'm not that nervous about the reduction that they're taking, and I certainly don't support the idea that we pay $50,000 to see about preventing our kids from leaving the school to go to another CTE program, when they aren't doing that. They're leaving our school to go to the charter schools, the private schools, they're being homeschooled, and so, let's go a little into it. The out-of-district tuitions, I think that should be looked at. I think they should look at their insurance costs. The health insurance and the property insurance, those rates are established by the trust after the budget is submitted. Were those numbers ever reviewed? Do we have current numbers in the budget of the school department that you reviewed for health care and property insurance? Because those numbers should have been updated for you. There's also a line item in the budget for turnover allowance. And I thought that was particularly low. It was $100,000 in the school department budget. Turnover allowance, again, was recommended by Mr. Edge, and we were well aware of that because we looked at other school department budgets, and they all have a line item called turnover allowance. It's the money that you expect to save in salaries and benefits because of unpaid leaves, retirements, teachers being replaced at a lower step from a 10th step teacher retiring and a first step teacher coming in, and that was $100,000. I think Mr. Edge had suggested that based on the history of the district, it should probably be a much higher number than $100,000. I think his number was $300,000, which brings down the salary. We don't really need to budget for salary because they never really spend what they budget for salary because of the turnover. So we never went that high as 300, but we certainly pushed the number. Last year, I looked on their town audit report, and they didn't have a tremendous savings in the salary turnover, but that was the new year in the contract. So they probably, contracted and signed a contract that ate up the turnover because they didn't end the year with a huge amount of money in the turnover. But this isn't a contract year, so I don't understand why we're not using something more realistic. Bus contract. I want to know why the school department didn't go out to bid on a bus contract. Why we just rolled it over. We have DATCO as the bus provider. Smithfield had DATCO as the bus provider, and the school committee kept just rolling over the contract. Smithfield Town Council got fed up with it and said, no, you're going to go out to bid on the contract. Surprise, surprise, they got a cheaper contract. We just negotiated new terms and gave them a good deal. That's not representing the taxpayers in this town. So I think they might have it might not be as difficult as some may believe for them to reconcile their budget if they just kind of review the information that's on there. But were those healthcare numbers ever modified by them during the budget process? Did you ever get new numbers? So they verified the trust is, this is the rate we're going to pay? And the healthcare and the private?
They lowered it.
They lowered it by what? Because I didn't see it on the budget on the town website, on the school department website.
I don't have those numbers in front of me.
All right, I'll take your word for it. But it'd be nice to see that on some document. Let me see. I think I'll shut up now, but I apologize for going on as I did, but it really riled me up when I heard the line once again that the previous leadership was somehow negligent. And if you'd like to go for a face-to-face meeting with the people at the Municipal Affairs Office in Providence, I'd be more than delighted to accompany you so that we both leave that room with the same understanding of what they agreed we want to do on the correct tack about it. And many other communities as well were stupid and followed our lead, Mr. Vadney, because you disagree and you talk about the declining revenue. But that's what most of the communities that had an influx of revenue from National Grid did. So read up on the levy law. I'll be glad. I'll drive you down to the Municipal Affairs Office and we can sit there together and have a nice chat. But let's stop pretending that this is something that the previous administration and leadership did. Thank you.
I'm not a town resident, but I'm a teacher at the high school. My name is Christine Welch. I just really quickly wanted to comment on just one thing. Mr. Clifford, I think you really need to look at the funding formula. I wanted to make sure no one was under the impression that the funding formula is strictly about enrollment. It's not.
It isn't. I didn't say it was. Don't misquote. I said it's one component.
Mr. Clifford, nobody interrupted you. Please allow this woman to speak.
Okay, so that was my only point. It's a very complicated formula, and I think that you'd be hard pressed to find really too many people who could explain it very thoroughly. It does have to do with poverty, but the state aid is a real problem, and I do think, you know, it kind of sounded like misinformation that the enrollment was really connected to that. So I would advise that, as hard as it is, to perhaps maybe do your homework about the funding formula before misrepresenting that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The funding formula is not a simple number
Very,
of
very
students.
complicated.
There are a lot of variables that are tied to it. I understand it. I was on the school committee when it was first rolled out with Carolyn Diaz and everything. So,
Yes.
yeah, there's a lot of variables to it, and enrollment is one piece of that.
Correct.
In your overall state aid, but every child, the money follows the child now, and so there's a formula that addresses that child, and as they move, that's where the money moves.
Correct, but I think that it's so multi-pronged that there's actually a bill that's being introduced very shortly. I don't remember which senator that is addressing some of the inequities, because there are districts all over Rhode Island that are dealing with that. But I do think, for our purposes, considering the state funding formula, it's a huge loss, as you know. But just simply tying it to enrollment is not accurate. And that's all I wanted to comment on.
It's ironic that the state mandates that we have a maintenance of effort agreement, yet they have no maintenance of effort.
Correct. Right. That was it. Thank you.
Ready? I'm reeling a little bit here. I don't know if, I'm part of the leadership or not part of the leadership, but hopefully I can explain some things. I have a handout, man. A lot of copies, but I can make more copies. Anybody who wants to email me, well, so, thank you for having me here, but let me start by saying thank you, Mr. President, honorable town council members, town administrator, budget committee members, school committee, and residents. I'm here today to thank you for all the support the school committee has received from the town. When I was appointed in late 2016 by the town council, the high school ranking, I believe, was number 12. I know it was double digits. The running joke when I was on the school committee was, for every major school expenditure was, does this get us closer to number 1 in the state? Many of my votes were based on that philosophy. In 2016, I understood that the only way to move forward was to work together, and all stakeholders moved in unison, which brought us to number 5. So our high school is number 5 in the state, and that was part of the handout. The other thing is that the school committee is proud of is that we're number 1 in growth in the state in both ELA and math, according to the RICAS assessment data. This is a credit to all of us working together. And initially, I would not be here asking for additional funds had the state not decreased our funding by $369,000. Although an approximate 2.5% increase in the school budget is something we can move forward with and prosper, when offset by decrease in state aid, the net amount is 4.2%. And what I would do is ask you to go to one of the handout pages. I think it's the last one. So on the last page, these are our increases. Teachers' salary, 2%. Administrative salary, 2%. Support salary, question mark, we're not there yet. Increase in health insurance, 5.6%. In-district transportation, 2%. OOD transportation, 20%. OOD tuitions, 19%. Special ed contracted services, 65%. And OOD special ed placement, 5%. As you can see, this does not work out. We have had the benefit of closing Hallowell School, and we have obtained some savings. We have also, if you go to the initial sheet, let's see, page 2 of your sheet, you will see that just to get to where we are, we had to make substantial cuts, and we were unable to make any additions. Okay, so, and again, this chart may have changed, and I know that we've provided it to you in the past, but again, there are substantial cuts in this budget. Just give me a second. I am not going to talk about National Grid. I don't even want to go down that road, so let me just jump that part. So initially, I think we requested a 2.1% increase of our budget, which translated to a 4% town increase for asking for 4% to be assigned to the schools. That does not mean 4% of the town budget. It was 4% of our budget. That's the most we could ask for on the state law. You know, the request is to cover, as I mentioned, different items of salaries, etc. But there are other medical premiums, school transportation, out of this tuition, high-cost tuition, insurance, utilities, and offset anticipated reductions in state aid to education. And let me just say this, because I know Mr. Clifford brought up a few things about the Budget Committee. I think that we worked very well with the Budget Committee. I believe that we were open and transparent. Anytime we had a change, we immediately brought it to the Budget Committee. So, and I appreciate that. That's a working relationship. Again, if you saw anything we didn't see, we'd be more than happy to have a discussion on it. But I appreciate the way we work together. So I guess our challenges are that, you know, there are rising costs that exceed the requested amount. In order to reach 2.1% budget, we had to deny school department requests for new programs, resources, and personnel. Identify approximately $500,000 in direct budget cuts, and again, some of them came from Hallowell. So, you know, where are we now? If you go to page 1, the budget stands, got a handout. The budget stands today. We're looking at making an additional $452,000 in cuts. And let me see this. As I mentioned earlier, I've met with the town administrator. I think that the town is being very fair to us, relatively speaking, and what I'm here to do is just ask you if there's any possibility to increase our funding. And it's a direct result of our cuts from the state. And again, that's a very complicated formula. So, the $452,000 in cuts that I mentioned, if we were to have to do that, it would send, I believe that it would hurt us, or it would at least possibly hurt us going forward and send us in the wrong direction. I will make the argument tonight that decreased rankings of our high school hurts the taxpayers by having less demand for property, causing values to decrease. On that page, you will see cutting arts, music. It's tough. But where we're weak is math, and we're going to need to cut a math interventionist out of the budget. Let me just, I calculated this very quickly, and hopefully I'm right. So we have 3,500 properties, residential properties in town. I would assume going from 12 in the high school to 5, and hopefully 1 at some point, but let's say 5, would increase somebody's house value by a measly $10,000, I would think. That would increase our levy by $35 million. So I know people are you're gonna hear complaints. Well, you know, my taxes went up. My taxes went up. Except value, and again, I'm just shooting from the hip on this, but value also goes up. So when they sell their houses, they're going to get more money. So, you know, I'm going to ask respectfully if there's any way that you could add $150,000 to what we're already getting it would not have, we would not have to reduce the positions that are absolutely necessary. The math interventionists, it's the list. And again, this is just a list at this point. You know, it's going to change. I think we get some contractual issues and probably won't be able to cut some of these positions, which may hurt us in other areas. And I'm just using a round number, which, you know, again, it's a math interventionist and just another position in here. If anybody has any questions, I'm here to answer them.
I do have a question as I've gone through the budget book. We're increasing the curriculum to $96,000 from $17,000 last year. What exactly are we buying? It's grades 2 to 4.
Please identify yourself.
Claire Arnold, Assistant Superintendent. So every year, curriculum budget fluctuates greatly because of the curriculum needs. And so initially we were looking at reading programs. Our reading programs are outdated. We also know that there's some legislation that's going through that is going to have all districts have to have what's deemed high-quality curriculum materials, and so some of our curriculum that we have developed over the years that is locally developed, we're going to actually have to purchase what's deemed high-quality curriculum, so we want to keep that in the budget to replace update the materials to align to the standards, but also to